Good evening, and thank you for joining Assemblymember Rhodesia Ransom State Capitol Update Series, where she is bringing updates from Sacramento directly to our community. Assemblymember Ransom has been a strong voice for San Joaquin County at the state capitol, working to make sure that we are heard and represented. As a reminder, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature. We will do our best to get to as many as we can after the presentations. With that, I'm happy to welcome Assemblymember Rhodesia Ransom. Assemblymember, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, hello. All right, can you hear me? Team, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining. I want to start by saying good evening. And it's my pleasure to be able to be here with you tonight and to basically host our second webinar. We promised to keep you engaged. 2 weeks ago, we hosted our first update for this series where we talked about the important legislation that we have moving through the legislature this year, including our work to lower costs for families, to strengthen public safety, and of course, to protect the Delta, which we know is important to everyone here, as well as expanding healthcare access and investing in education and career pathways. We also talked about the importance of making sure that San Joaquin County is not left behind when decisions are being made in Sacramento. As you all know, I'm one of 120 legislators, one of 80 in the assembly. And so there's a lot of competing interests, and it's really important that I, as our assembly member, that I make sure that I'm bringing all of the issues that you all bring to me with me to Sacramento and make sure that we're part of important discussions so that we don't get left behind. So tonight we're going to continue the conversations that we started a couple of weeks ago. We're going to focus tonight on the state budget, what it means for California, and the specific state dollars that we were able to secure for this district. For those of you who are joining for the first time, I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce myself. I'm Assemblymember Rhodesia Ransom, and it is a pleasure to be able to represent not only District 13, but that includes Stockton, Tracy, Mountain House, and French Camp, and the state of California. Over the last couple of months, the legislature has been in a serious budget discussion and negotiation. Our goal was to not only pass a balanced budget, but to pass a budget that provides stability, certainty, and moral clarity during what most would consider a challenging time for our state. As we're dealing with our budget, we have to be very mindful that things that are happening at the federal level and dollars that are being taken off the table have now become the state responsibility. And so we've done that. It's not a perfect thing. It's not a perfect budget. No budget is. But we've had to make difficult choices, especially when we are shifting costs from the federal government onto us and forcing us to backfill very important safety net programs that people in our community rely on. And also making sure that we have dollars going towards investments in the communities. So federal actions in Washington, D.C., as you've already heard, I'm sure you've seen, are threatening healthcare, food assistance, community hospitals, and many programs that families rely on. But in California, we have been fighting to make sure families do not feel the full burden of these costs. We can't shield us from everything because it's almost impossible to backfill every single dollar that's been taken off the table. But we've done a good job to make sure that we do have a balanced budget. And tonight, I'm excited to be joined by our special guest, Mr. Jason Cisney, who's the budget advisor for the California State Assembly Speaker's Office. I want to welcome Jason, who will share key updates on the overall wide budget, the challenges the legislature had to navigate, and what this budget means for you, for me, and for all of our families. But before I go and turn it over to Jason, and stay on the line, Jason, I want to share some of the state resources and wins that we were able to secure to protect our district and to protect our communities. So I want to start with healthcare. I know that's top of mind for a lot of people. And so when you look across the state budget, this budget includes 300 million to help lower healthcare costs and premiums and to protect access to coverage. It also invests more than $1 billion in clinics and hospitals, including 190 million to help financially distressed hospitals keep their doors open and to continue serving their communities. Um, just for relevance sake, that would include hospitals right in our district, including Dameron Hospital, which we know is a hospital that has been financially distressed, and we've been seeing them be able to make a turnaround. The budget also includes 44 million to support counties as they do work to keep people connected to benefits and services. We've had the county supervisors come to see us in Sacramento, and basically they are really in a desperate situation because their budgets have been decimated by the federal HR 1. And basically what that means for all of you is if we were not helping the county with the 44 million, you would feel even more that local pressure of the budget deficits that they were struggling with. I'm also proud that the legislature pushed back against proposed cuts to in-home supportive services. That is a huge need in our county. Taking care of loved ones, as we know, can be a full-time job. It's already a low-paying job. And so we fought to make sure that caregivers are supported and that families are not forced to choose between caring for someone they love or keeping a roof over their head when they're already struggling. Many of them don't have benefits and struggle to have their own health care. Um, Next, I'll move forward to what it means to keep communities safe when you look at this budget. As the chair of the Emergency Management Committee, public safety and emergency response are even more of a top priority for me. Earlier in this legislative session, I introduced Assembly Bill 1805 to focus on accountability and oversight for California's next generation 911 project. The 911 project is supposed to modernize our emergency response system and make sure that we can reach a reliable help when we dial 911. But after more than a decade, the state had already spent 456 million taxpayer dollars on the project, and we were not able to deliver a reliable statewide system. So during our negotiations, we were able to work, the budget's done in several parts. It's the Assembly, the Senate, and the administration, the governor's office. And it's best when we all agree. So during the budget negotiations, what we were able to do is work with key public safety leaders, key stakeholders, the administration, the Senate, and OES to make sure that oversight provisions from the legislation that I'd authored were moved into the budget. And what this does is it allows it to be done in a more timely manner, like we can start right now. And we also have contingencies. So now that the budget offers 141.9 million for next generation 911, but we're not writing a blank check. Before new long-term contracts move forward, the budget requires quarterly reporting to the legislature, a formal audit, and a rapid response technical evaluation for qualified experts. That will help us ensure that the project is going to be headed in the right direction. It means that we can continue moving the project forward, but with accountability, with transparency, and the safeguards that we all deserve. So this is about making sure that when we call 911, the system is up to date, reliable, and we can get the help that we need as quickly as possible. Golden mussels. I'm going to move forward to golden mussels. There has been so much ado about golden mussels, particularly in our district, because we are the epicenter and the place where golden mussels were discovered in California. So one of the things that is really important for us is to ensure that while we work on all the policies that will help us to eradicate golden mussels, that we're not allowing these things to continue to fester and invade our delta. So when you all saw me putting out that we were putting in a budget request, we were able to secure $6 million in the state budget, particularly for golden mussel decontamination sites in the delta. That is for the 5 delta counties. This was not automatic. It's something that we really had to fight for. But I will tell you, those golden mussels helped us out because it started off in our district and we were telling folks that this was a problem. But you'll see that it's now in Sacramento. Golden mussels are now in Long Beach. They're now in San Diego. And so we know we have a problem that we want to get ahead. And so when we've been sounding the alarm early because we know this was not going to be a local issue. This was a threat to the state's waterways, to our farms, to our water infrastructures, and to the communities that rely on the Delta. So part of our work has been making sure this issue was understood at the state level. It also meant raising awareness with our colleagues, working with state agencies, and making sure that we let people know that if we didn't deal with this, it was going to be more costly. And so now we're seeing exactly that golden mussels being detected all over the place. So I'm really grateful that our budget committees and our chair folks and all of the folks involved were able to see the need for us to get ahead of this and to grant the $6 million, because we want to make sure that we get ahead of this and kind of cut it off before it gets any worse and gets more expensive. And just to put it in context, China spends $4 billion a year. So this is a drop in the bucket for us to be able to try and get ahead of this issue. Honeybee health. We all know that we live in an agricultural rich district. I always tell people that California would not be the fourth largest economy without our district and the rich agriculture. And part of that is because we have health, honeybee health, and that is meaning that we have pollinators. So we were able to secure $2.5 million for the managed honeybee health program. Some of you may recall the governor vetoed my bill last year and gave me a nice little message saying, I think this is a great idea, but you should do this in the budget and not in the policy. So that's what we did. We went back and we asked for the $2.5 million because honeybees are essential to the agriculture and the food we put on the table. And we know how closely our farms and food supply and the local economy are connected. So this budget win is really important to help keep our pollinators pollinating and keep our agriculture thriving, because we want to be able to respond to the alarming decline in the honeybee populations across the state. So that's just a little bit of what we've been doing that's specific to the district. Um, Beyond the dollars that we just talked about coming to the district, there are some other wins that's specific for this district, but the budget also includes major statewide investments that matter to families across California. And so to better help us understand the full statewide picture, I'm grateful to introduce you all to Mr. Jason Sisney. Like I mentioned earlier, he is the budget advisor for the California State Assembly Speaker's Office and brings major experience on the state budget and the negotiations that shaped this year's agreement. Jason, thank you for joining, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. That was actually a very good summary. I'll say a little bit more about who I am. I work in the Assembly Speaker's office. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas is from San Benito County and represents Hollister, Gilroy, Watsonville, and some other localities near California's Central Coast. And as Speaker, he works with Assemblymember Ransom and the other members of the Assembly in terms of running the institution and helping to negotiate the budget with the leadership of the state Senate as well as Governor Newsom. And so I'm his principal budget staffer, and I work as well with the elected members of the Assembly from throughout the state. In terms of the big picture, California has obviously the largest state budget in the country, and it has a very volatile state budget, as you may have heard. And the key reason why is that California has a progressive tax system that's been approved by voters that taxes high income people at higher marginal rates. High income people in the state have a lot of wealth, obviously, but the amount that they owe in taxes every year goes up or down a lot based on what's happening in the stock market and in their other investments. And so that's one of the things that we deal with every year in the state budget. In addition to that volatility, which we've had for many years, and we try to save money in reserves when times are good to help with that, the state budget has had some other challenges the last few years. It's had the effects of inflation, just like every Californian and every business has had in paying their costs over the last few years. Inflation affects the state's cost in a lot of ways, including in the healthcare programs that the state of California funds. Those costs have gone up a lot. And then the effects of the federal changes, principally through HR 1, the legislation that was passed last summer and signed by President Trump, that is a radical change in how the federal government deals with states and localities for both food and health programs. So all of those things have been a big challenge for the state budget, and the state has been managing all of those challenges year to year through the budget process. And what Assemblymember Ransom mentioned about the effects of these federal changes on healthcare and other programs is really true. They've been quite profound. And one of the things that we're doing in California, while we cannot backfill all of those federal cuts and we cannot keep every person enrolled in Medi-Cal and CalFresh that we would like to, we've been trying to use our budget to keep as many people as we can on programs from one year to the next. So one of the key features of this budget, which was just signed by Governor Newsom, is that it does spend a few $1 billion on clinics, distress hospitals, on the additional subsidies in covered California, at least through the next year, to try to keep as many people enrolled and as many of those healthcare institutions going as we possibly can. It also provides funding to counties for staff to help keep as many people enrolled in those safety net programs as possible, at least through the next year. And next year, hopefully, we'll be able in the budget with a new governor to be able to continue making those investments that are very important to Californians. The budget also provides funding for affordable housing programs and to help cities like Stockton with their homeless programs and smaller cities and counties as well. Um, the governor did not provide any funding in his proposed budget for the state's key program that helps communities deal with homeless individuals. The HAP program is what it's called, HHAP. The Senate and the Assembly worked to include 900 million, almost as much as was in the prior year for that program, and so that was another very important item in the budget. In just going through some of the highlights, Assemblymember Ransom mentioned some of the highlights for San Joaquin County. Another item that was in the budget was court funding. The legislature tried to get additional funding to improve our court facilities, and in the budget, which Governor Newsom signed a few days ago, is more than $60 million for court projects in San Joaquin County, including a new courtroom in Stockton, as well as planning and design build money, more than $60 million for a future new courthouse in Tracy. That's years away, and there'll have to be more efforts to make sure that funding stays in the budget over the next few years, but it's an excellent start. And San Joaquin County, along with Kern County, Los Angeles County, were one of the several counties that received that funding in the budget, thanks to Assemblymember Ransom's leadership and leadership from the state Senate as well. So I think that those were important items in the budget. The state faces big budget challenges ahead. The effects of HR 1 are going to be felt for many years to come. And so looking ahead to next year, there'll be a need to keep focusing on making sure that our public dollars are spent frugally and thoughtfully, and to basically make sure that the dollars go to the most important programs that help the most Californians. So with that, happy to help answer questions and talk any more if we can about the state budget.
Thank you for that, Jason. I definitely appreciate you giving the high level for folks who may be more interested in some of the things happening around the state.
Mhm.
And just for everyone's awareness, the courthouse in Tracy has not been operable since 2007. It's been a budget priority for many years. So really excited to see the Tracy Courthouse added to the planning dollars, because once you start planning and designing, then you're able to move forward. Why that's
Okay.
important in a district like ours is that we have a lot of commuters. At any given time, we have 20,000 homes in construction, and the South County does not have a courthouse that commuters can access. And so it just adds to the quality of life when you don't have to commute an additional 20, 30, sometimes 45 minutes, depending on traffic, to handle your judicial business. So we're really excited to see that as part of this budget. And so I think now we're ready for Q&A. I'm going to ask Carlos, do we have any questions?
Yeah, first question we have here is what impact will HR 1 have on Prop 1 implementation?
Okay, I'm going to kick that over to Jason.
Right. I mean, in terms of implementing California's efforts to improve mental health, to help people out of homelessness and all of the other mental health needs, HR 1 does not help those things. I mean, basically, a lot of those efforts in California and other states are integrated with the Medicaid system, which HR 1 cuts by quite a bit and removes a lot of people from coverage. So it's going to make it more difficult. And that's true all over the country. And so, in the coming years, as HR 1 rolls out, it's something that I think that elected legislators here and all around the country are going to be dealing with. If the federal government is investing less in healthcare and mental health efforts to help people succeed, how are states and localities going to do their best to try to keep things going and to prioritize the most important needs? But it's not helpful, that's for sure.
Thank you for that, Jason. And I just like
Mhm.
to add, a lot of the times you all hear us legislators, we are really bothered by the HR one dollars being taken off the table, especially here in California, because California is a donor state. We pay a lot of money, and HR one has really impacted not just programs that would be funded by Prop one, but all of those kind of like adjacent programs as well. And we've already seen, that Prop one has at the local level been a concern for agencies because a lot of those dollars have gone to the county. And now we see the county is scrambling to also deal with the effects of HR one. So while we gave the county those dollars to deal with those local mental health issues and things like that, we're seeing that they are still continuing to struggle, even though they've gotten bigger dollars than they've gotten in previous years. So San Joaquin County, as an example, I want to say there was 175 million that they received from Prop One, but with HR One taking dollars off the table, we're hearing them loud and clear that they are still looking for additional supports. And so hopefully that was helpful.
Awesome. Next question. How does the state decide what gets funded and what does not when there are so many needs?
Okay, I alluded a little bit to that. Now, Jason is the expert, but I will tell you, I got to see firsthand. I'm going to let Jason, I'm just going to give a little prelude, if you will, and then you really give him the how the sauce is made. What I can tell you in the assembly is, I mean, we ask for everything, right? We're just there's 80 people looking out for 80 districts. And so we have these statewide issues, but you'll see that the governor comes out with his budget proposal. We take a look at the governor's proposal and we're like, no way. Last year you all may recall that he cut family justice centers. And so I was like, there's no way, we can have that happen. And so we go back in the assembly and we kind of say, like, what are our non-negotiables? Where can we work with the administration? And then the Senate does the exact same thing. So the budget is basically three parties. And so in the Assembly and the Senate, we overlap. So I have Senator McNerney, who was my counterpart in the Senate. And so he's over there making sure that where we overlap, we're looking out for the Delta as example and all those different things. And we're able to kind of come together and find those things like food security programs, public safety programs. And then there are things that are very specific to districts that are also non-negotiable. So that is how I've experienced. It's definitely a three-part deal with everyone, feeling like their issue is the only most important thing. I got on Jason's nerves. I'm like, only the things in San Joaquin County matter because we could not exist in California without it. But Jason, how would you describe it? That's been my experience.
Well, it really is a collaborative process between the branches of government. The governor plays a very big role. The governor, of course, has uh, his statewide uh, electoral base and staff from all of his departments. They make very important proposals and they play an important role in the process. And then the legislature provides both a statewide sense of priorities and also priorities from individual districts. And so I'll give a couple of examples. This year, there was there was a push by a lot of assembly members to provide more funding for court-appointed special advocates who help in the foster care system, who help look out for the interest of foster children as well as children who've been involved with the justice system. And that was something that the members of the assembly and I help with that at the staff level. We put forward efforts, and we were able to achieve adding that funding to the budget, working with the Senate and the governor. And then you'll also have all of the issues that are more local that are highlighted by individual members. And we talked about some of those in San Joaquin County, but working working for the speaker, I hear about those issues from Los Angeles County, the Inland Empire, North State, all up and down the state, that there are these issues. And so the budget really becomes a mixture of those statewide priorities that come from elected legislators and the governor, and then a lot of the local priorities that we hear about as well. And it's a mix of things. And so there are very important things. How do you provide funding to clinics? And then there will be in some parts of the state that aren't served well by parks. There will be a need for uh, local park facilities there that could be the most important issue in individual communities. So it's really a mix of all of those things.
Thank you. And I'm going to close by saying it's so important that as legislators that we are engaging with our budget team, because they have no idea what's going on in our districts if we don't tell them what's happening. Uh, I say this on these calls all the time. I represent District 13. I actually got a chance to talk to the governor about this because we had a disagreement about something. And I said, look, I know you represent the entire state, but like I represent like this one part of California that needs to be just as important as Los Angeles, which has a huge delegation in the legislature. Um, and the Bay Area, which has a very vocal and active caucus as well. And so, I mean, it was something we got to laugh about, but it's reality that, in the Central Valley and being one of few Democrats in the Central Valley, we really have to work in a very bipartisan way in order for us to be uplifted in these discussions. So you'll see, I think more than anywhere else in the state, when you look at the Central Valley, you'll see very bipartisan conversations happening with my counterparts. Heath Flora is a Republican that literally our districts are very much aligned. In fact, in French Cap, we have facilities right across the street from each other. There's two bottling companies in French Cap. One's mine on one side of the street, the other is Heath Flora, the Republican leader, on the other side of the street. So it's really important that we are bringing these issues, to the budget teams, bringing it to their attention about like what's being neglected or what needs to be uplifted, and really how it impacts the entire state when it comes to things that are not just generally known. So we do the best that we can, and to the chagrin of Mr. Sisney, we do the best we can to make sure that those things are lifted up.
That's great.
Carlos, back to you. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have one here about the about grocery prices. So, does the budget do anything to help families struggling with groceries?
Well, we're not doing anything about grocery. Well, let's see, not directly when it comes to grocery prices, but there is significant dollars. I don't have the number in front of me. Jason probably does, for food insecurity. Um, Programs such as, food banks, making sure that they have access to food. And then also a lot of these other things that we are dealing with when I talk about things like making sure that golden mussels is not impacting our agricultural community. When I talk about honeybee health, those things are all interconnected with cost of food, because the more it costs to maintain those, whether it's the ag infrastructure and things like that, it eventually gets passed on. But when it comes to direct support, we definitely have dollars for food banks. Jason, can you share how many millions we put in for food banks?
Sure. We've this budget provides about $108 million for our main food bank program, Cal Food, and it also provides funding, more than $100 million total, to help counties keep people enrolled in the CalFresh program, which used to be called food stamps, that that is harder because of HR1, because HR1 puts more requirements on people to stay enrolled in that program. And so those are among the ways that we're able in the budget. In addition, the budget continues funding the Universal Meals Program in schools to try to make sure that kids get breakfast and lunch at school as well, which has become one of California's biggest food assistance programs. So those are a few ways that the budget looks at helping people get the nutrition they need.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just want to kind of add that, what we've seen with when it comes to food insecurities is lots of working class people are relying on our food banks to kind of get them between paychecks and to supplement the things that they're able to pick up at the grocery store. So it is important that, CalFresh does have an income threshold, and we know that it's even harder for folks to access it, but it was equally as important to make sure that those folks who don't meet the criteria for CalFresh can still access, fresh fruits and vegetables through the different food bank programs as well. And thank you for the question. Carlos, what else do you have?
Next question here. What protections are in this budget for people on Medi-Cal?
I kick that over to Jason because it's a very nuanced response.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of challenges for people on Medi-Cal under HR1. There are going to be more and stricter redetermination requirements. So that's basically more paperwork. And if you're on Medi-Cal, you know that that paperwork can be very difficult to get through the county welfare office. So we do provide, just like in CalFresh, we provide more than $150 million to counties for staff and other resources to try to keep as many people enrolled as possible. And we're also trying in the budget to continue supplemental funding to clinics and to dental providers in Medi-Cal to ensure that they can continue to provide coverage at least through the next year or so. It's going to be difficult to continue some of those funding items in future years, but the governor and legislators have been trying to do that the last few years, despite HR1 and all of the changes that we've been seeing as a result of it. So those are some of the ways, but the state is sort of moving a rock up the hill with the federal partner that wants to make it candidly more difficult for people to remain on Medicaid all around the country. And so those are some of the things we're doing in this budget.
And you said it perfectly. I don't need to add anything to that. Thank you for that, Jason.
Assemblymember, that seems to be the last question. Oh wait, one just came in. Sorry about that. Do you have a list of groups that are exempt from meeting 80 hours of work and redetermination 2 times per year? Are behavioral health patients slash clinics exempt from this question? I'll go ahead and put that in
Uh,
chat for you.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated one, and I confess I don't have all those details there. Those are things that you definitely would have to talk directly to county welfare offices to get a sense of how individuals are affected, and obviously places like clinics do have a lot of requirements as well. There's no doubt because of HR1, the requirements are changing now, and to a large extent that is outside of the state's control for the Medi-Cal population, and I think that it's definitely something that folks are concerned with. And the one of the key things is we are trying to provide more resources to counties so that they have the people they need
Yeah.
to review as many redetermination applications as possible. It's a very hard job that they have with all of the paperwork they have to go through, but we are trying our best to work with counties to give them the resources they need to do as good a job as they can.
Yes, thank you. And again, thank you all for the question. That's definitely something the county will have. And just to be a little bit more explicit, one of the things in this budget that our Health and Human Services Chair, the Human Services Chair pushed for is to ensure that there were navigators and people on the ground to, make sure people aren't missing these critical deadlines because you get knocked out of your Medi-Cal program, then, we're really concerned about people's outcomes and having them kicked off of these programs for any amount of time, because the folks who are on these programs are already, vulnerable communities and populations. And so part of the budget and part of having those extra funds given to the counties includes making sure there are people who can help navigate these systems. And I think that that's going to be where you're able to, and I know that that's where you'll be able to find the list um, from your county. All right, Carlos, anyone else?
That seems to be the last question.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna just end by saying thank you very much to Mr. Jason Sisney for joining us. It's so important that, I know I don't have all the answers. I do my best to be as up to date as I can, but it's so important to have you here tonight so that folks can know that they're getting the right information, that we have a budget expert in the room, not just someone who knows District 13 like I do. So thank you so much for joining and for all of your hard work in making sure that the state as a whole was taken into consideration, especially when it came to District 13 and needs that were brought to you and the rest of the budget team. So I really want to appreciate you for that. And to the residents of District 13, thank you so much for engaging and for, staying up to date. I just want you to know that I take your voice and your concerns and your issues with me every day when I go to Sacramento. I'm fortunate and sometimes unfortunate enough to live nearby. So I come home every day. And the days that I'm not in Sacramento, I'm here working in the district. I hope that you see us. I hope that you feel the work that we're doing. But I bring that up to say that it's so important to me that I understand the needs of the district, and as important conversations are happening in Sacramento, that we are part of those conversations and that our voices matter. And so thank you so much for being part of this series. You'll hear from us again in another couple of weeks with a different update. But if you have any questions or any concerns or any needs from our office, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you have problems with the state agency, we can help you with that, whether it's DMV or unemployment, whatever your issue may be. We're more than happy to help you resolve your issues with the state of California. And with that, I'm going to give you back your time. But again, we really appreciate each and every one of you. And it's my honor to represent us in District 13. Thank you and have a wonderful night.